welcome back to Fun on Weekdays podcast. I am your host, Jenna. This is the 4th episode. Did y'all miss me last week? Because I know that I missed you. To be completely honest with you, every time that I get a message or a comment or a DM, I guess a message and a DM are the same thing, right? But every time that y'all are like, where was your episode this past week? Like, I missed you. Are you not uploading one? It makes me so upset because I hate that I feel like I'm letting y'all down. I know that you want more episodes. I want to be able to give out more. And today, my episode is all about why I haven't been able to do that so far. I've been super busy. And if you follow me on my personal accounts, you may have been able to see that. You might already know what this episode is about. So if you listen to the last episode, if you listen to the last episode, it was number 3. And I focused my conversation around a 3-word phrase. And that phrase was paid time off. So I felt like it was only, right to continue that trend and to make my 4th episode about a 4-word phrase. So before I kind of get into the episode and what this is all about, I think we should all take a moment, whether you're taking a deep breath or you're grabbing a glass of wine or you are, I don't even know what you're doing at this point, girl or guy. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise my glass because today is August 26th, 2021. And as of actually less than 24 hours from now, it is my first day as a full-time podcast. Okay, here we go. Let me just do like a quick little chug. I tried to like gulp right into the mic so that you could hear the ASMR of the gulp. Hopefully in like a couple weeks from now, maybe a couple months from now, I'll have a better quality microphone so you can actually hear it. But I'm taking this moment because today is a pivotal moment in my life. So as I said, I am a full-time podcast, and that 4-word phrase is drum roll. I quit my job. So if you follow me on TikTok, I'm sure you probably already saw this coming. I kind of made like an announcement video, but I haven't really had a time to sit down and talk about it in depth and like really explain the thought process behind it, how this all came about, because for you guys, it may seem super random. For me, it happened about a month ago, and I'm going to kind of get into it, but today, wherever you are, whether you know me or you don't, I just want to like start from square one because I'm picturing today as a brand new chapter of Fun on Weekdays, a brand new future, a brand new kind of vision for what Fun on Weekdays is. And I'm excited. I'm like my blood is boiling right now in the best way possible. I feel like after I record this, I might need to slip into like a cute little mini dress and go out to the clubs and dance the night away just to celebrate like this new chapter of my life that I get to share with y'all and y'all get to share with me. So, as I said, I quit my job. And last week I took a week off. Just like these past few weeks have been super stressful for me, especially going through the whole resignation process. Been really mentally drained, tired, and just really, really overwhelmed. And I feel like I don't talk about it enough how important it is to take time for yourself to process your emotions. And maybe for me, I'm somebody who's generally very happy and like uplifting and positive. And lately I've been feeling emotions a little bit differently. I thought it was because I was falling in love. What? But then I realized it's just because I've had so many life changes. And so today is my moment, my opportunity to share all of those thoughts and feelings and emotions with you so that we're kind of going through it together and you can understand my vision and my goals and my dreams and how this all is going to help and affect you and build like just like a community amongst us. So this is the first time I've ever really written kind of like not even a script, but I guess like a guideline for what I want to talk about during an episode. And I think as my first official episode as a full-time podcaster, if you will, I think it's important to kind of create a little bit of consistency amongst my podcast so that you kind of know a little bit about what you're going to listen into, just a general overview, because this podcast, it really started as a hobby. It started as maybe just something fun to do. I pick up a microphone, I talk about what I did for the day, maybe I make you laugh, Hopefully I make you laugh. And now I'm looking at Fun on Weekdays as a career. Like, this is my full-time job, and now it's time to take it seriously, and now it's time to hone in on what you guys actually come here to listen to every single week, and how I can provide you with like the motivation and the inspiration and the knowledge that you need in order to take this into your life, and how you can build Fun on Weekdays into your mantra of like your goals and everything like that. So the first question that I kind of assumed that y'all would want to know is when I knew that I wanted to quit. So I've been working at TikTok for a little over a year now. I started in July of 2020. And if you listen to the first episode, it obviously gives you a lot more context. So I encourage you to go back and listen to that first one. Honestly, I'm still like so flabbergasted by that first episode. People are still continuing to listen to it. And like every time people tag me in a video, it brings me so much joy that people are kind of listening to my entire journey. But anyway, I encourage you to go back if you don't know what I'm talking about. So when I first started my role at TikTok in July of 2020, it seems so far away. I was a brand development manager, and essentially what that meant was I was working in advertising sales, but I was covering like a huge scope of everything. So that included prospecting new accounts, like people who would be interested in advertising. At the time, I wasn't verticalized either, so this could be literally anybody. It could be anybody from like healthcare to insurance to retail to beauty to CPG. And like if you're listening to this and you're like, what the fuck does that mean? Don't worry, I'm gonna give you more context. But essentially what it meant was I was finding people and businesses that would want to advertise on TikTok, reaching out, doing sales calls, getting them to buy into this idea of like advertising their business on TikTok, and then onboarding, and then setting up like their ad accounts, helping them with their creative process of creating ads, and then also looking over their performance of, you know, okay, you built this campaign, it's not performing to what you want. How can we provide you recommendations of how to scale this? And I think this might make a little bit more sense if you're coming from like an advertising or marketing background. So I won't get into any more nitty gritties from there. But essentially like our team just continued to evolve over time. Our responsibilities changed, and the role that I was hired for just kind of evolved over time, which is perfectly okay. One of the things that I loved about TikTok was that I was always kept on my toes. Every single day was something new. I felt like I was constantly learning a new skill. And one of those skills was the first 6 months that our team split into halves. There was acquisition and there was retention. So like within advertising, acquisition meant like finding new accounts that would want to advertise and then reaching out, whatever. I loved doing that. I was super good at it. And it was just like a very streamlined process. I mean, you find an account, you do a sales pitch call, they agree, you get them onboarded, and then you pass them off to an account manager. But then there became a time about 2.5 months ago that we switched roles. And so I went from that acquisition role to an account manager. And that was very much analytical. It was very performance driven. And it wasn't something that I was like super passionate about. And I just found myself kind of questioning every single day, like, this isn't something that I love to do. I'm not going to quit though, because I don't think that you should quit something just because you don't like it. Or not because you don't like it, but because it's hard. And for me, I think the reason why I didn't enjoy it so much was because it was something that I didn't know. And there was like uncomfort in not being super great at my role. So when my role changed, I was a little bit less passionate. I felt a little bit less fulfilled within my role at TikTok. And at that time too, I was starting to do a lot more brand partnerships with TikTok, like on my personal page. At that time, I started diving into the idea of making a podcast and making longer form videos like YouTube videos. I mean, I had been a guest on people's podcasts. I have like traveled a little bit more. And so as I was starting to evaluate my life, I just kind of came to a point where I realized my current role isn't creatively fulfilling what I wanted for my future. And my side job as being like a content creator, like / influencer, whatever, before I even started this podcast, like I loved it. It like fuels my energy. It allows me to be like fun and goofy and use my personality to my strength. And so that was like a huge part of when and why I kind of realized, okay, something's like a little bit off. And what I preach all the time is if you're not happy with your life, like you don't need to live in misery. You can go out and you can do something about it. Like, don't complain about the things that you can change. And so I kind of realized I wasn't doing that. And then another thing too is I was just very overwhelmed. Being in an account management role, if anyone's listening to this and you're in a similar position with your job, it's a lot. It's always on, and especially working from home, there's a very fine line between when you can work and when you can turn off. And I had a very hard time of determining when that time was. And so I allowed my professional life to go into my personal. And then when your personal time is limited, then your health and then your social and your relationship, capabilities are limited as well. And just over time, I felt like I was neglecting so many of my friendships and my relationships with people, as well as the time that I owed to myself to really like be stable in my own mental state, I guess. That might sound like maybe a little bit dramatic, but I realized like the reason why y'all listen to this podcast is because you deal with these exact same things. And I realized I was preaching things that I wasn't even practicing. And so once I realized like I'm allowing my professional career to overtake the time that I'm enjoying my actual limited time on earth, like I need to do something about it. I need to take my own advice and actually do something about it with my life and make a change. And so that was another reason that like I kind of knew, was that I felt like I was really neglecting my time with my friends. And something too that's kind of just like a sidebar is people ask me all the time when they're coming to Austin, like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be in town for the weekend. I would love to meet up with you. Would love to go to dinner and get coffee. And don't get me wrong, I would absolutely love nothing more than to meet people that could potentially have like a huge impact on my life. And I hate the idea of saying no, because I always preach saying yes to every opportunity. But I got to a point where it was like, I don't even have time for the closest people in my life that I care about to update them within like 2 weeks time, to talk to them, to give them time to hang out with them, let alone bringing in like these strangers into my life that could potentially be a friend. Because every new friend, especially in your adult life, it requires work and energy to foster a relationship with that person. And so I felt like I didn't have time for like these new people that wanted to be a part of my life, let alone the people who have already been such an important part of my life. And that's when I really had to start thinking like, as you grow older, your relationships with your friends, they change. Like in high school, you see them every single day and they're a huge part of your life because you're in the same schedule. And then you go to college and maybe those high school friends are living a couple hours away, but you're able to see them because you have the same class schedule and you're able to see them a couple times a year. But then when you get older and you're working full-time jobs and you don't have the capabilities to take PTO to see each other, you really rely on like your communication. And when your time is completely filled and distracted by all of these other factors in your life, it's so easy to neglect those relationships regardless of how much that person means to you. And so for me, like, I just needed to take a step back and really think about like who means a lot to me in my life and how I can provide more value to them, and like how their relationship with me provides value to my life. So that was another thing too that made me realize that I wanted to quit my job. Another thing was just spending time around people who saw the potential in me. And I've talked about this in like other podcasts. I've talked about this in TikToks. Y'all know that I've spent a lot of time with Connor Saley and his business partner, Mike Zegzo. Oh shit. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Mike, if you're listening to this and I just butchered it, like I purposely wasn't going to say your last name because I don't know how to pronounce it. It's XHAXHO. Zegzo, maybe? Anyways, I've been spending a lot of time with like these two guys that I kind of feel like I'm living like a Jess from New Girl situation right now. Like you got like these guy friends, you're living in like this bro atmosphere. But just living around people that really inspire you and motivate you and believe in you, you get like this really addicting energy around you that like you see the potential in yourself that other people see in you. And you kind of validate those ideas that you dream of when other people believe in you as well. And so spending time around people that really support you and encourage you, that was another thing that really pushed me to know that I wanted to quit, was because it wasn't just that like I knew I had potential, but it was that other people around me and my friends, people I'm closest to, also saw it as well. And it always helps to have outside validation, whether that's like in your career or like attention or in relationships. Outside validation, I don't know. There's something about it. I could do a whole other podcast episode about that. But right now we're just going to focus on like Fun on Weekdays, the podcast itself. Seeing your guys' passion for Fun on Weekdays. I talked a little bit at the very beginning about my passion for my role at TikTok. And I think the difference is that I was passionate about TikTok as a platform. I was passionate about TikTok as an organization. And like TikTok itself led me to a career opportunity internally. But you guys, your support, led me to a career opportunity on TikTok as a platform. And like every week, every day, whenever that I see y'all tag me in a picture or a video, or you send me a message, or you comment on something, and you show me you actually living by the motto of Fun on Weekdays, of going out and trying something new, stepping out of your comfort zone, hanging out with a friend that you haven't seen in a while, doing something spontaneous, going and singing at a karaoke bar, going on a spontaneous trip, doing something that you've never done, and actually visualizing your life in a completely new way just because you've listened to maybe 3 hours, maybe 20 minutes of what I've had to say into this microphone. Like, it has been so fulfilling. Oh my God, I'm gonna make myself cry. In like the best way ever. I think that seeing my impact on the way that people are viewing their lives differently has been the most fulfilling thing of what I've done in like the entire past year. But I also credit a lot of that capability of me to be able to inspire you, to be able to have a platform, to be able to like share my thoughts and my ideas on life with you, because of my opportunity of working at TikTok and my entire journey of from the very beginning with the resume of building a platform, because I was sharing my entire process of starting my first time job, dating, relationships, whatever, now starting a podcast, all of these things, like it all leads back to TikTok. And that was why it was so hard for me to make this decision. But just overall, y'all's commitment and passion for this idea that like I think that we created together made me realize that like this is not just a podcast. This is not me just like sitting on my bed, and hopefully I won't be in my bed in a couple months from now. Hopefully I'll be in like an actual studio. This is not just me like talking into a microphone. This is me actually making a real difference and a real impact on people's lives. And that has made me completely question like all of my career goals. And so I've been like so fortunate for that. Oh my gosh, not me like, not me working myself up and getting emotional, but I just really wanted to express my gratitude too. I think a lot of times maybe y'all don't think that I see your messages or anything, and sometimes I don't see it right away, but I appreciate literally everything that comes my way, whether it's positive or negative. Everything that you say helps me grow, and my growth helps me help you, because what I am able to grow and to realize, I'm able to also then bring back to you guys as a community and just as friends. Like, I'm sitting on my bed right now talking to my camera that's propped up on my $50 ring light from Walmart that I bought before I ever thought that I would do like a legitimate podcast. And I feel like I'm talking to my friends. Like, I feel so comfortable and safe in this like community that like not I, but we've been able to create together. And so that was a huge reason that I felt very secure in my decision to make such a huge life change, such as quitting my job. But then the last thing too was, because you guys were so passionate about this idea, like this mantra and like this whole community of Fun on Weekdays, y'all wanted more episodes, and then you want merchandise, and then you want me to be able to host events in your cities and do all of these like extra things, and I want to be able to do that for you more than literally anything. But I realized I was working 2 full-time jobs, and the first full-time job was TikTok, and the second full-time job was Fun on Weekdays, creating an environment that people feel like supported and inspired in. And I realized that Fun on Weekdays can only be as large and impactful and meaningful as the amount of time that I have to devote to build the community for it. So being able to quit my job and focus 100% of my time, my energy, but most importantly, like my heart and my passion into Fun on Weekdays is what is going to make it into this like long-term, bigger idea than just a podcast. Like, this is an idea of how you can live your life. And I hope that this is relatable to anyone, regardless of how old you are, where you're at in your chapter of life. But yeah, like, just your guys' longing for wanting more was just reiteration that I need to spend more time on this, because this is meaningful. Like, this is making a difference in people's lives. And it was fulfilling this like void that I feel like I've always been kind of missing, but I never knew what was missing until now, which is like so weird. I talk about all the time that it's like, oh, I was destined to like not be famous, but like I was destined to like be important. And I feel like you guys give me importance. Okay. Oh my God. Wow. Why am I like, okay. Next thing that I figured y'all would want to know is how I quit my job. So I know that a lot of people listening to this podcast, you know, you may be like out of college, or you may be in college, you may be 10 years into career. Like I said, doesn't matter. People of all ages and all forms of life listen to this podcast. And so you may be considering like, how do I quit a job? So the standard resignation that you give is 2 weeks to let your team know that like you're going to be leaving the company. But for me, I felt like 2 weeks wasn't enough time, given like my circumstance, given the fact that TikTok is a little bit more of like a startup. Our team was smaller, and I was very, very respectful of the fact that like I know how I felt with my specific role, and I didn't want to put more pressure and overwhelm my teammates by letting them know with just like 2 weeks notice that I was going to be leaving. So I wanted to give them time to prepare. So I officially quit my job. And I don't even like to say quit my job. Let me reword that. I officially left TikTok, or let them know I was leaving TikTok on August 2nd. So it's been a month now. And it's been really, really hard for me to be able to like keep this secret, especially because I'm such a loudmouth. I love to overshare everything. If you are an avid watch or viewer of like my lives, and you're consistently keeping up with my life, you know that I've kind of dropped hints because I've just been so excited to share all of this with you. But yeah, for the past month, I've been just kind of transitioning out of this role. And I didn't want to share this information with you until I felt like it was appropriate from like a professional standpoint, but also until I could collect all of my thoughts in a way that like I was proud to present to you, I guess, because I think a lot of times I speak on my heart, which is like a great thing to do, but also thinking about the way that I word things can often be misinterpreted. So making sure that I'm getting this message across correctly so that y'all know like the real reason and purpose why I truly am making like this huge step in the direction of Fun on Weekdays. So that was one thing. How else I quit was I had like weekly one-on-one meetings with my managers, and I was very fortunate to be in a position that my upper management was very like supportive and encouraging of having an open dialogue every time we spoke, whether that's around like performance things or around like our personal lives. And my managers felt like a friend. And so I felt comfortable coming to them as more of like a mentor friend position and letting them know, hey, I've been kind of having these ideas and thoughts of leaving TikTok, and it's nothing personal, but just like pursuing maybe something that I am more passionate about. And I think that especially because I have a little bit more of like an uplifting personality, that when I'm not as maybe happy, people pick up on that. And so my managers kind of knew a little bit in advance that like something was a little off. I was, starting to spend more time making content and like traveling and doing things that I felt like more passionate about. And so I think they kind of knew a little bit ahead of time, but just having that open conversation with them of, hey, before I just like plop in and say I'm giving my resignation, letting them know that, I think gave me a little bit of security as well. So anybody listening, this is how I like want to relate this all back to you, is if you're in a position that you feel like you've kind of outgrown your job, it's okay. Like that is human nature, to outgrow something that is like comfortable. I almost feel like if you get too comfortable, like you're not allowing yourself the time to be uncomfortable, and uncomfort leads to growth, and growth leads to new opportunities. So if you're in a position, you've been at a company for a few years and you're feeling like, okay, I need to like get out of here, this is your sign. Another thing too with TikTok is, I mentioned this before, was I didn't view it as quitting. Yes, I did mention that like my new role I wasn't super great at. And this was something that I like really struggled with. I didn't want to feel like I was quitting my job because I wasn't good at it. Because anytime I'm not good at something, I feel like I love a good challenge. I feel like everybody should love a good challenge, because challenge, it goes back to growth. But another thing is, I didn't want to close any doors with TikTok because I love the organization, and a huge part of what I'm building right now is on that platform. And like that platform is the reason why I was able to leave that job. So just making sure that like I was very just kind of transparent with my reasoning for leaving the organization, and just not looking at it as quitting and moving on to something better, or going to a competitor, or not aligning with like the company's goals. Just, leaving because I was pursuing something that makes me happier, like brings more joy to my life, brings more inspiration to my life. And that like, that's literally you guys. Oh my God, I'm talking to my mic. Like you guys are like my little like people. But yeah, that was another thing that helped me like quit the job. So what that exit looked like internally was taking the month to allow my managers to reassign accounts for me to be able to send out like outro and intro emails to let my accounts know like I was going to be leaving TikTok if they wanted to keep in touch, and then also like their new point of contact. And then also just like from my own standpoint, just trying to reevaluate how I'm going to manage my time, because working on like a traditional 9-to-5 schedule where I basically know every single day, like, yeah, it might be a little bit different every single day. As I said in the beginning, like your tasks are different. That like your general responsibilities are going to be pretty consistent. So just kind of readapting my time management skills, and knowing that now that I'm doing a podcast and content stuff full time, I'm going to be working on a plethora of different projects, and how I'm able to manage all of those things. It's going to take a lot of time for me to understand, all of the things that I'm able to take on, especially because I'm somebody who loves to say yes to everything, not spreading myself too thin. And especially not spreading myself too thin and taking on more than I can handle while still transitioning out of this role. So another question you may be wondering is, how did my family react to this? So I think something that's really interesting is that like your parents don't typically understand social media. They may understand Facebook, but like they don't get the I don't know. I don't even want to say influencer, because I feel like there's just such a stigma around the word influencer. And I want to reiterate that I was not leaving my job at TikTok to become a full-time influencer. I don't view Fun on Weekdays, like the podcast, or what I'm pursuing right now full-time, as being a full-time influencer. It is like literally building a brand, building a business, building a community around the podcast. But I think it's really difficult for like an older generation to understand the impact that social media has on like younger people. And so for that reason, they were definitely like skeptical and cautious, not meaning that they were not supportive. In the fact that like they wanted to make sure that I had thought through all risks involved, meaning not living on a financially stable income, not working for a company that provides insurance, figuring out taxes, figuring out student loans, all of these things that like they wanted to just make sure that these are things that went through my mind before I made such a huge life decision. And so maybe like a little bit of skepticism, but overall just general support. I'm very grateful that my parents raised me to believe in myself, and also that they've been extremely encouraging of my passions and whatever I want to pursue, whether they understand it or not. And I think I speak for like my whole family. Obviously my parents are like older, and then I have two sisters. Erin, who's 26, lives in Cleveland. And then Sydney, who is 28, she lives in San Antonio, only like an hour from here. I just think overall in general, like my sisters, my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles, everyone in my family, I think this is really different for us because it's non-traditional. No one in my family has ever started a business or a brand or like anything with social media. So maybe just like a new idea to adapt to, but very open to the possibilities it could lead to. If you're watching this, you may recognize that the glass over here, the little wine glass, it just got refilled. Did I stop the video to go get another glass of wine? Maybe. Because this next topic leads me into like a little bit more than halfway through. So the next question that I figured y'all would have for me is, how did my friends react? So I feel like ever since I've gotten older, my relationships with my friends have changed, definitely, and I touched on this a little bit before. Like when you grow up with people in high school, you have more time to tell them about your life. But now, because I was making such like a huge decision, I wanted to make sure that I had like the whole month to reach out to my friends and tell them one by one like this change that was happening, so they didn't feel blindsided and like find out from social media that like I'm making such a huge life decision. I'm changing, I'm quitting my job, and I'm like potentially moving to LA for a little bit. So I spent a little bit of time making sure that like they were all prepared for it. But just like an overall consensus is everybody's very, very supportive. And I think to me that made me realize that I've surrounded myself with the right people in my life. Because if you have people that are questioning you and are doubting you, maybe those aren't the people that you should be surrounding yourself with. If you have people that like create this competitive environment, like those are not your true friends. Your true friends are the people that are encouraging you, are inspiring you, are supporting you, are talking positively about you, even if they're like maybe a little bit skeptical about a decision that you made. And so like I'm sure that there's gonna be people who are gonna talk poorly about me behind my back after coming out with this, but like that's fine. They're not my friends. And I'm very confident in the fact that I've surrounded myself with good people, wholehearted people that are only going to uplift me and allow me to grow even more into my personal and professional, capabilities. So then the next thing is, this to me is probably the most important thing, was how did y'all react to it? Like the people that follow and support me, it like has a way weight in my heart of like how y'all feel about me, because I can only have a platform as long as y'all give it to me and allow me to have like an impact on your lives. So like the majority of people that follow and support me were very supportive of this decision, and they were happy to see my growth. A lot of people have been following me from the very beginning, and they've seen me in college, they've seen me apply for jobs, they've seen me from like the very, very start. And then like there's also a big pool of people who have followed along mid-journey, and that's perfectly fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But I think that just like a lot of times it's easier to recognize the negative comments than it is to recognize the supportive ones. And so there were like a few maybe like more negative, and I won't even say negative, but maybe like a little bit more critical comments around like, okay, you just built an entire brand around 9 to 5 and now you're quitting your 9 to 5, so you're not relatable. And now you're moving to LA and now you're just like another influencer trying to make it materialistic. And what I have to say to that is not my goal at all. And I feel like if you truly follow me, then you would know that I've always been so grounded in my values and so like headstrong on what I believe, and being an influencer, being a creator was never, ever part of my plan. Like ever. Am I so grateful that I ended up like this? Yeah, absolutely. But like I would simply never quit my job, and I feel like after listening to the first episode too, like you have a good understanding, but I would never quit my job to just like move to LA and like become like a content creator. Like and there's nothing wrong with doing that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I just feel like I have more aspirational goals that people aren't taking into account. And I think that maybe like the idea of quitting a 9 to 5 with the idea of moving to LA together, there's like this idea and there's this misconception of what my future is going to look like. So I'm grateful that I have this platform now to be able to clarify what my goals are. So when I say I'm quitting my 9 to 5, I'm trading that in for a 24/7. I am working full time so that I can provide to you guys the quality and the time that you all deserve. The quality in terms of, hopefully, from now, I won't be recording in my bedroom. And not recording in my bedroom will allow me to bring on guests that like, okay, one thing about having guests on your podcast is like, it's awkward. It's so awkward to have like unless they're like your really good friend, it's really awkward to have a guest just like sitting on your bed. And right now I don't have a space. And like one of my goals is to have a podcast space, is to have a podcast office. And so having a podcast office is going to allow me to bring people into Austin, to be able to like take them into the city and to be able to like really exemplify what Fun on Weekdays is trying new things and exploring new places and like bringing yourself out of your comfort zone. But then also like just the quality of the podcast. Like the more time that I'm able to put into this, the more I'm able to focus on like the dialogue that I create around this community. The more that I'm able to spend time planning events, that I'm able to bring people together, that I'm able to connect y'all with each other. So like the idea of me quitting my job, I don't want you guys to think that I'm quitting it so that I can have more fun because I'm making tons of money doing ads. Like, no. And any money that I do make, like, I am investing it back into being able to provide more opportunities for you guys, because that's what's fulfilling for me, is like, if I can do an event in Austin and I can bring Austin people together and they can make new friends, somebody might meet like their bridesmaid at an event that I could host. And then if I can take that event to Boston and I can take it to Chicago and LA, and I can like create this whole just like huge community around Fun on Weekdays, that is my goal. That is why I'm leaving TikTok, so that I can build that for you guys, so that like I can integrate that into your life, so that you can really hone in on like the mantra, rather than me having more free time to myself so that I can enjoy that time. And like I talked in my first episode that I'm not fulfilled by just working one job. And I feel like the podcast allows me to express myself in multiple ways, with like talking to you, social media, creating content, hosting events, speaking, just like there's just so many facets to like this business. And like that to me is, I don't even know where I was going with this, because now I just kind of got off on a tangent. But like I said, people I think were maybe like a little bit upset about the idea of me quitting the 9 to 5 plus LA. So I also wanted to address the LA thing as well. So moving to LA, I feel like there's this stereotype that like you're going to become an influencer, you're going to be materialistic, you're going to be unrelatable, because you're going to be living this lifestyle that's not attainable. Like, most people are not going to these fancy events. They're not going to retreats. They're not getting free products. Like, I completely understand that. 100%. A lot of the people that I follow, like, it's sad for me, the people that I follow that result to that. But also, because I see that, and because, like, those are not the people that I want to become, I'm not them. Like, you have to give me a chance to prove myself to you that I'm not changing who I am. I'm not changing my values. I'm not changing what Fun on Weekdays is just because I am no longer working like this corporate traditional, timeline. You have to give me a chance to prove that, like, the amount of time that I'm getting back by being able to focus just solely on this is going to provide more value in making it more relatable. It's not me just sitting down with a friend because, like, we can have good conversation and dialogue. It's me being able to create conversation around questions that you want answered and topics that, like, you want to hear about. And without having the time and without having, like, the distraction of that other thing, now I'm able to provide that for you. So that's one thing I, like, really, really want to emphasize. I'm not losing my relatability. I am still me. I am not changing who I am. I'm not even changing what I'm doing. To be completely honest with you, I'm taking one thing out of it. And when I talk about, like, the 9-to-5 thing, a lot of times people are like, okay, but you're not living now a traditional lifestyle. Okay, well, think about a hairdresser. A hairdresser is working from, like, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's not a traditional 9-to-5. Think about a teacher. They're working from 8 a.m. to 7 p.m. Like, my mom is the last person to leave the office or to leave the school. That's not a traditional 9-to-5 either. Like, there are so many different jobs, and the hours that you work do not constrain you from being able to participate in Fun on Weekdays. Fun on Weekdays is not working a 9-to-5. Fun on Weekdays is being able to create opportunities for your life rather than waiting for them, to be able to live every single day as a new adventure, to be able to, like, just stop complaining about your life and make the most of it, because no day is guaranteed, and this is, like, a little bit of a reiteration, but no day is guaranteed. Like, you never know what's going to be your last. So instead of, it doesn't matter what hours you're working, but if you don't enjoy your job, like, do something to change that. If you're not happy in your relationship, and okay, there are definitely circumstances to this, but leave that relationship. If you're not inspired, like, surround yourself with new people. There are so many things that you can do to change your life, and I think oftentimes it's a lot easier to complain about it than it is to do something. And that is what Fun on Weekdays is built around, is not being complacent with living an average routine life if that's not what you want for yourself. If you want more, then do that. Create that, because the only person stopping you from that is yourself. So, like, that is kind of like how y'all reacted. Majority of you were very supportive and loved to see that I'm, like, making this huge career change. And I think a lot of people, it's not that you're not supportive, it's just that you don't want me to lose sight of who I am. And so this episode is me reiterating and giving you, like, validation and reassurance that I am still Jenna. Like, I'm never going to change that. I love Austin. I'm not moving to LA to become, like, that stereotypical. My plan with LA personally is to come up with a strategy of, like, a lot of the people that you want me to have on the podcast as guests, they live in LA. And so if I can spend 2 weeks out of a month there, and I can plan all of these episodes that I can record, and I can just heads down, I can create dialogue, meaningful dialogue, and I can plan out what these episodes are going to be with these people that you want, it's going to bring more value to you. And so it's more so me going to LA so that I can work, not so, like, I can go to LA to party and to meet influencers and to do all those things. Like, that's, I don't want that. Like, truly. And you can hold this to me. Like, in general, I think I'm very grounded in my career and personal aspirations, and those have never been part of it, regardless of, like, the platform that I create for myself. Because I think your platform is only as important as people make it important in their lives. And it's only important if it's relatable and it's still, grounded. I don't know. Okay. The next thing that I kind of wanted to end on are like my next plans, my future plans for Fun on Weekdays. So the first thing was, I kind of touched on this. I originally thought that I was going to be living in LA full time from October until like Christmas. And this was kind of determined when like Fun on Weekdays was still a hobby. Mike and Connor came to me and they were wanting to move to LA to focus on their business with Waterboy, which we'll talk a little bit about that like in the next episode. But and I thought of it as like a business opportunity for me to be able to meet new people and whatever, and I still think of it as that. But that was before Fun on Weekdays was like my full-time job. And now that I have my full attention and I've quit TikTok and I've now been able to focus on this, I'm viewing these next few months as a crucial part of being able to keep this community extremely engaging and collaborative as physically possible, to listen to what y'all want, for me to be able to hear what you want out of the podcast, to be able to go to LA for like those 2 weeks, heads down, work on that, bring it back, and come back to Austin and like do what I need to do in here. So yeah, just like keeping the strategy alive, and just keeping Fun on Weekdays alive, because I think another thing too is there's a lot of work that goes into a podcast that I don't think a lot of people realize. I mean, it's not just sitting down and talking into a microphone, it's saving the files, sending over the files. That takes hours. Oh my God, you guys, I don't know if it's my internet connection or what, but like, holy shit, it takes hours. Sending that over, creating like cut downs so that you can post it, and it's like, you know, a little snippet of what you're going to watch for the next week. That's like the least of it. But then like merch comes into play, and it's not just merch, it's not just designing it, it's sourcing the product, it's printing the product, it's then sending out the product. And then it's not just like going to a city, but it's finding a vendor that can host the city or a venue. And then it's finding a sponsor that can pay for the event. And then it's creating the product that you can give out of the event, hosting or hiring a videographer. All of these things, I feel like, you know, you think about people who host like podcasts as full-time jobs. And for me, before I became the person, it seems so easy. And then you sit down and you realize, oh my God, there's so much that goes into it in order to make it successful. And that's the thing too, is like, yeah, I could totally make Fun on Weekdays just like a sidebar thing, but I know that it's capable of so much more, and that you guys want it to be so much more, and it requires full time. I'm like, I don't want this to just be a side thing. Like, I was in the top charts in the first couple weeks, and that was so awesome. Like, the feeling of that, I know that I wasn't the only one that felt it. Like, y'all were proud of it too. And so for us to be able to keep it there, it's going to require like a whole team. It's going to require a lot of work, a lot of attention, and that's going to require me to just like really focus and to split my time between Austin and LA. And hopefully y'all are okay with that. Like, I hope that you understand me going back and forth between cities is not me like losing sight of who I am. It's just me working a little bit harder, spreading myself a little bit thinner so that I can provide like the best thing for you. Another thing with my kind of future plans for Fun on Weekdays is I see myself living in Austin full time. My lease is up at the end of September, and my roommate Lily, who I love so much, is moving to New York City. She got a design job with Ralph Lauren, and she's going to be living in a sublease apartment with some friends. And so she's moving out, and I feel like I'm at a point in my life now where it's like I need to move out into my own apartment. So finding my own apartment, those types of things. I know I'm going to be in Austin full time. Like, I'm not moving to LA. I'm not moving to Dallas. I'm not moving back to Cleveland. Austin is like where I feel at home. It's where I started everything. It just feels right. So making sure you know that. And then, like I've already mentioned, bringing Fun on Weekdays to different cities. Like, yes, I am in Austin, but Fun on Weekdays, that's just like a general, it's just a general mantra. It's just a general outlook on life. And I think if I can bring it to different cities and I can provide you with an experience to meet other people who are in a similar situation, like maybe you just moved to Philadelphia, for example, and you want to meet other 20-somethings, 30-somethings, people your age, people with your similar interests, you can go to my event and you can meet people, and they could be your potential future bridesmaid. Like, that's what I want. So that is a huge vision of mine, and that's definitely later on down the road, and that requires a lot of time and energy and work and sponsorships and all of those things. And I hope that you guys will continue on with me during this journey to make that happen and see it to the fruition of what it could potentially be. Just continuing to keep Fun on Weekdays as collaborative as I intended it to be from the very beginning. Obviously, I started Fun on Weekdays because it was just like a spontaneous TikTok. And then it started with like Instagram polls. And then it ended with like you guys voting on what you want my picture to be, and just like questions that you ask me that you want me to ask my guests and recommendations of that. I intend to keep it that way 100%, because at the end of the day, Fun on Weekdays is nothing without you guys, because this podcast was like created by you guys, like for you guys. And the more that y'all are collaborative to it, the more it helps me grow, the more it helps me like have my own new perspective of life as well. I feel like it's like mutually beneficial. And then the last thing is just to make sure that Fun on Weekdays is relatable to everyone. Whether you follow me personally and like you know my life story, it doesn't really matter. Fun on Weekdays is not synonymous with Jenna Palick. Like Fun on Weekdays is just a relatable concept of how you can live life and how you can have an outlook of just being positive of every single day is a new day. So last thing I want to end it on is like, what is next? So I really encourage your guys' recommendations and suggestions. I love hearing from you. Definitely, like, I love hearing supportive comments, but like the negative or the neutral comments too, or like maybe a little bit more critical suggestions, those help me. Like, for example, somebody said from my last episode, they're like, yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed because like your episode with so-and-so was more conversational, was more of like a friend, and I thought it was going to be a little bit more relatable, but because I don't know you two so well, I couldn't really relate to it. And like, okay, that's great. Thank you for telling me that, because I would have never known. Because like me listening to my own episodes, it's different than having a fresh outlook. And I think it's really important to have those different opinions so that I can continue to evolve and make this into what y'all want and need. And then another thing, I mean, I've already said this, but I wrote Fun on Weekdays is about challenging yourself. It's not about being complacent with your 9 to 5. It's not about the hours that you work in a day. It's not about what type of job you have. It doesn't matter if you are an entrepreneur, you're a startup, or you work or you're in college, you know? Fun on Weekdays is just genuinely about not complaining about your life. If there's something you want to change, then like go and fix it. And hopefully I'm that person that can inspire you to be confident in yourself enough to make that change. Last thing, and I've already said this as well, is just continuing to be grounded in my values and my personality, because I would have never been able to grow this platform if I wouldn't have been like so consistent in who I am along the way. And as I continue to grow it, like just maintaining exactly who I am. So as y'all know, that's like the end of everything. This is a little bit more of like a heavy topic. I know that the previous episode before this was definitely more like fun, uplifting, and funny. But I feel like this is like a new chapter for Fun on Weekdays, so I felt like it was necessary. And maybe this isn't necessarily what you wanted to hear. Hopefully this is relatable in some way to you. But just in terms of like where Fun on Weekdays as a podcast is going in the future, I wanted to set clear expectations. So if you continue to support me, thank you so much. Like literally from the bottom of my heart, it's insane that I have so many supportive people around me. And if this isn't what you necessarily thought that it was going to be, that's okay. Like no hard feelings. I'm letting you know now like what my direction is with this. And so whether you continue to stick around or not, that's totally up to you. So I end every episode on letting you know my suggestion of the week for what I think that you should do for fun. And following this episode, it's going to go straight into Fun on Weekdays around like how you can maximize your life. So stay tuned for next week. But this week's suggestion of what to do is to go to a workout class. And there's like so many free ones. I'm not saying go to Planet Fitness or go to Anytime Fitness. Don't go to a gym. Go to like an actual workout class that's designated for like kickboxing, Pilates, bar, what else? Yoga. Go to like an actual class. Go to a free one if you can. Because I feel like it's so cool to be around a community that's like super passionate about something. I've been going to True Fusion for not a year now, like a little under a year. And I feel like it builds routine, it builds community, it's a great outlet for stress. It allows you to find like new interests and new passions. And then after you go to that class, you're going to feel great. You're going to feel like super rejuvenated, maybe let out a little bit of those emotions. And then you're going to go to find a smoothie or like a protein type place. And you're going to go get something to fuel yourself up so you have energy for the rest of the day. And you're going to take a picture and you're going to tag me and you're going to tag Fun on Weekdays, or you're going to tag Fun on Weekdays podcast, and you're going to tag me, Jenna Palick, and let me know that you did your fun activity of the week. And it's a great excuse to let everybody know that you're being healthy. Like, who doesn't want that? In terms of next week, we have one of my very close friends, and I think somebody who you will be very excited to hear from, Connor Staley, to answer all of your burning questions. So stay tuned for next week and the second episode of Fun on Weekdays being my full-time job. So thank y'all for listening all the way through. I'm so excited for where this is about to go, and just like, I guess, thank you again in advance for all of your support. I'm hoping that this is like a huge turning point for not only me, but like for you guys as well. And yeah, that's it. Talk to y'all next Tuesday.